And in most people's minds, space is just nothing, unless it's filled with air. But once you get outside the air, space may be in some way crossed by floating bodies, by various kinds of electrical vibrations, light waves, cosmic rays, etc. But since the Michelson-Morley experiment, which seemed to prove conclusively that there wasn't any such thing as ether, some kind of attenuated fluid through which light was propagated, space is just isn't there. It's a way we have, in other words, of talking about distances between bodies. In other words, when we say the distance between them increased, as if the distance were a substantive that does something, like the man walked, the distance increased. But I suppose what we're actually saying is that the two bodies we're talking about increased the distance between themselves. They did it. But then you suddenly find that you've got distance as an object. They increased the distance now being the object of the verb, whereas before it was the substance, the subject. And so at once one begins to see there's something fishy about space. And after all, it is the background against which we see everything. And even a blind person has a sense of space in that which does not obstruct motion. And yet, funny thing about space is that in a way it doesn't end where a solid begins. You could shift a solid around in space without apparently altering it in any way. And after all, there is space between the two sides, shall we say, or ends of the solid. We can think of that in terms of space and measure it in terms of space. But it is against space that we experience everything that we experience. And by the way, also, we experience everything not only in the dimension of space, but also in the dimension of time. And the fascination about space and time is that while they are basic to all possible experiences that we have, you just can't put your finger on it. Space seems to be completely immaterial. And when St. Augustine was asked what is time, he said, I know what it is, but when you ask me, I don't. So these two basic dimensions of our physical world are uncommonly elusive. We could perhaps say that they are pure abstractions. There is no such thing as space, and there is no such thing as time. They are merely our way of measuring and thinking about the behavior of the physical universe as a pattern, a system of patterns, energy patterns. And if you measure the movement of these patterns, the line along which you measure motion is called the timeline. If you measure their positions, the line along which you measure their positions you would call the space line. And these two lines would be
with which we are familiar, and a sixth factor which is called the mental coordinator. Now, the purpose of the mental coordinator is to compute the testimonies of the sensory perceptions. It further has to bring to bear upon all new evidence, all that is already available within the consciousness of the individual himself. This is almost a problem in modern computerization. Every moment, testimonies of one kind or another are entering into our mental lives through the sensory faculties. Of course, the most important of these faculties are the faculties of sight and hearing. But even those less highly specialized also contribute a variety of supporting evidences of our conduct and our attitudes toward life. The coordinator has as its primary function to digest and assimilate all new evidence and incorporate it into the permanent structure of human insight. This means, in substance and essence, that constantly the individual is adding to his store of knowledge, but is not aware of the process. He pays little conscious attention to the things that occur around him, but subconsciously he is aware of all of them. And we know through hypnotic research and through regression that there is scarcely a detail in the life of the individual which is not permanently recorded. To the Buddhists, this record is due to the constant, precise function of the mental coordinator. This faculty takes control of all types of phenomena. It gives us a constant insight into everything that makes up our daily living. It also exercises a censorship. For when something occurs to us which is contrary to the basic structures of our nature, this difference, this inconsistency, is also listed. Today, especially, the environment is constantly bombarding us with material which is not essential, not useful, and even is dangerous or detrimental. This is also filtered out by the coordinator. And as a result of this, the individual learns not only what to do, but what not to do. There is a relationship between this problem and that of conscience. But conscience is essentially a moral issue arising in the internal psychic integration. The actual record of experience is brought in through the coordinator. Now, the reason this is possible is because nature is a systematic structure. Nature does not feed into the sensory perceptions uncensored material. It brings to the sensory perceptions a great deal of rather well clarified information. It brings in also new ideas. It reminds us of things long past. It brings the wisdom of our childhood to bear upon the thoughtfulness of our mature years. From the cradle to the grave, the record is unbroken. And into this structure...
Evolution, however, is at work, and you and I didn't invent that universe. We didn't invent that planet. We didn't invent those laws. There's something much bigger operating. The thing to do is to stand off and try to see where those are. Now, the things that are happening evolutionarily, we have politics everywhere. With the information system we have today, are becoming quite clearly highly corruptible. The perfectly good human beings, the thinking not enough to go around. Absolutely. Then playing tricks. How do you get? You don't want to really kill them, man, but you tell a lie. It's immoral if you do it to yourself, but it's moral if you do it to people. It's not all those kinds of ways of temporizing with the truth. And poor little man, I see the politicians are now such a bind. We don't have to say that. It's quite clear how they solve a problem inside politics. They're beginning to really say, how can you make this work? I see we get the moon, and then not lose a single human being on that kind of undertaking. And Shakespeare, that's what we ought to be doing about how we make our spaceship work. So I guess in the world coming soon, I find that absolutely will not put up with lies. It's manifest of its abhorrence to any misrepresentation is most cheering of all.
That's not a generalized
Evolution, however, is at work, and you and I didn't invent that universe. We didn't invent that planet. We didn't invent those laws of evolution. Each child is great that is born in the front door. Because when I was young, I was 8 years old. Evolution, however, is at work, and you and I didn't invent that universe.